So I think we'll get started right away. Turn off the music. All right. So I think most people are here. We'll probably have more people join on as we go. But for all of you present, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Nicholas Belvo. I'm the head of marketing of Fintech Cadence. And welcome to this third webinar of our university series, where we're pretty much breaking down different aspects of fintech. So it's our series called Fintech 101. If you do want to share this presentation or show that you're attending, feel free to do so. We're on different social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You could find us at Fintech Cadence, and feel free to use today's hashtags, hashtag UNI SERIES and hashtag Fintech 101. So today we have the great pleasure of having two experts here with us today. We have Eric Morin, the program lead at Startup in Residence, as well as Jan Arp from the Holt Accelerator. So they'll be coming in just a moment. But first, we just want to present our great collaborators that made this event possible. So I'd like to shout out all the clubs that have been helping us make this event possible. So I won't name them all, but university clubs across Canada have been instrumental in helping us promote this event. So thank you so much to all the student leaders out there, and maybe some of you joining us today. So we will kick it off with a quick introduction of Fintech Cadence. We'll then go into the panel itself. We'll have some time for Q&A. Feel free, by the way, during the panel, if you do have questions, to write them in the chat, or even there's a Q&A function. That'd be even easier, so we could answer all your questions if they come along, maybe sometimes even tackling them as we're chatting. And then we'll end it up just around 5 o'clock. So I'm curious, some of you said it's the first time today at the Uni Series. Is it the first time that you hear of Fintech Cadence in general? Anybody not heard of Fintech Cadence before? Just type yes in the chat box. I'm curious to know, just to see who I'm speaking with today. You could also write no if you know us very well, or you could write like 100% if you're big fans of Fintech Cadence and have been part of our programs or events for a while. All right, perfect. So we have at least one person that I'm seeing that's their first time. We have a couple, 101%, very nice. So I'll go pretty quick here. Fintech Cadence, we're a community builder that's really focused on developing the fintech leaders of tomorrow, the future fintech leaders. So we really focus on 3 different pillars. One of them is education. So educating fintech talent through different events like what we're doing today, supporting early stage fintech startups, notably through our Ascension Program, and collaborating with financial institutions to help solve industry challenges. So our 3 programs, our 3 flagship programs are the following: Ascension, which is the only fintech incubation program in Quebec, solely focused on fintech startups. We have the certificate program that actually just ended. It's a 12-week program to really teach you in detail what fintech is all about. And lastly, the Formathon, which I'll dive into right now because that's the next program that is coming up in May. So the Formathon is Canada's biggest fintech competition. It's essentially a 3-week open innovation competition where you have 2 options. You could either build a fintech startup based on a challenge we'll be proposing, or work on a research project. So there's these 2 tracks: the startup track itself, where it's more for the entrepreneurial spirited person who's maybe trying to build their first startup for the first time, or getting into fintech for the first time, and wants to work on something that's relevant. One of the most important things in entrepreneurship is working on a current challenge and not just building a solution for the sake of building a solution. So the Formathon really helps you make that possible. If you don't want to get involved in actually building a startup and committing long-term to building your own company, we have the research track, which also enables you to dive deep and learn about what is going on in fintech and the main themes there, but in a way that is more research focused and perhaps in the perspective of getting a job in fintech afterwards. So it's a 3-week competition. As I said, it all starts on May 28th. So it's coming up in about 2 months from now. And then it breaks down as the following. There'll be 2 Wednesday evening sessions from 5:30 to 7 p.m. and then 3 Saturday sessions, full day from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So it's not 3 weeks nonstop. We encourage you to work outside of these sessions as well, if you wish. But these are going to be the sessions where we're going to have experts come in to guide you and help you work on your project. And then all ends on June 17th with the demo day. So here you'll be able to see all the different projects people have been working on across Canada. So it's the first time we do it online. Generally, we do it in person in Montreal, Quebec. But for the first time, because of the current circumstances, we're doing it all digital. So you could come with a team you already have, or we'll help you form a team, given the name Form-a-thon. We'll help you form a team. So whether it's people from your city or from across Canada who are just interested in the same problem as you, that'll be possible. So I'll ask my colleague just share the link in the chat, and we'll also email you afterwards with the link so you could find out more information and register. But yeah, I hope we'll see many of you in this year's Form-a-thon. So that's pretty much the intro we wanted to give before diving into today's talk. So now what I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen and ask both Eric and Jan to please share your screen so everybody could see you as well. Hey, Jan, I think you're on mute, and we'll just wait for Eric to join as well.
Hi, everybody.
All right. Eric, are you still with us? There we go. We see you.
Hello, hello.
And you're off mute. Perfect. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today for today's session. First, love to kick it off just so everybody can learn a bit about yourselves. Maybe, Jan, you could start with your fancy background, telling us a bit about who you are and about the Holt Accelerator.
Sure.
Oops.
Yeah, it's cutting for me too. Eric, are you still there?
Oh yeah, I am. Just too bad for Jan.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Maybe, sometimes the background does require some more computing power. So we'll see. Hopefully he'll come back in a second. But Eric, we'll move on to you. Could you please tell us about yourself and the Startup in Residence program?
So hi everybody. Thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it. First, bear with me. My English is usually very bad on Thursdays. So it took me 20 years to learn English. I'm getting there. So I'm a senior advisor in open innovation, and also the Startup in Residence director at Desjardins. It's an incubator. Desjardins is the largest federation of credit unions in North America. And I'm also have the opportunity to be an active advisory board member for a few high-profile Canadian fintechs, including Zoom. That's a good one. Including Flare Systems. Flare Systems is a Montreal-based cybersecurity startup. And obviously, I'm a big fan of Fintech Cadence and also Holt Fintech AI Accelerator. So I hope Jan just heard that.
Perfect. Thanks, Eric.
Jan back.
Jan, you're back.
Good to be back. Hope so. Not sure for how long. I have no idea what you guys caught. You know, maybe it's a sign they didn't want me talking. So I'm not sure what you guys caught there.
It's the background.
It cut off from the get-go. So yeah, I'm not sure what happened, but we could restart and yeah, tell us about yourself and the Holt Accelerator.
Sure. So yeah, we're, you know, I studied finance in university way back in the day. So I guess I tried to justify my existence and studies by getting into fintech when fintech before it was starting to pick up notoriety. So, but most recently over the years, yeah, I started the Holt Fintech Accelerator a couple of years back for the sole purpose of really helping early stage fintechs kind of cross that chasm. And by doing so, I mean, it's very difficult to to build a fintech. It's a little harder than typical startups. You know,
Sure.
generally speaking, to raise a financing round, you need a financial institution backing you, and if or on board or distribution partner or some sort of partnership. But they don't really want to partner with you until you raise a financing round. So you have a bit of a chicken and egg story. So we set out to do that through the Holt Fintech Accelerator. We now have 300 advisors who represent financial institutions, investors, and experts, and we seek the world's best. We'll get 600 plus applications, choose 10 to 12 per year, make some deals happen. With an active portfolio of 18 companies now, we've brokered about 30 deals. So the process works really well, and we're helping them get to that next milestone.
That's great. And I know you have about a month left for this year's cohort. So yeah, and it's, from the sounds of it, it's going well despite everything that's going on. And for everybody, by the way, if you're interested, I know you guys are doing the your webinar series as well for people from across the world. So I don't know if the time zones would work for everybody here, but maybe you want to speak quickly about that.
Sure, we have our webinars. We'll be kicking off in Europe tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7 o'clock start, because we want to be around lunchtime on that side. So we'll be going to the US, MENA, Asia, LATAM, and then flying all the way back through submarine cables, so probably swimming, shall we say, digitally back to Canada. And we'll be looking to kind of talk about the issues of COVID each time with a special panelist and regionally. Because I think it's really important at this time to see how it's progressing from one spot to the other. Is worried how we're all sort of globally connected right now.
Great. So yeah, today's topic is speaking about the issue in general, and the title being "Fintech to the Rescue: Helping the Economy." So maybe let's start off by actually speaking about what's going on in the economy. And I'd like to kick it off with you, Jen, just to give a summary. I'm sure most people here today are well aware, but of what's going on. But from your perspective and from what's going on, and I know Eric, you'll dive in from the banking perspective. Could we just summarize a bit to put this conversation in context, and maybe for those watching down the road in the future?
Sure. I mean, I'll keep it quite high level so that we just have some context here. But we probably saw it as it kicked off. There was obviously a health crisis that started that led to a bit of a crash in the stock markets, dropping to around 30%, with questions being, have we bottomed out? Now, why is this happening? Well, demand is dropped off a cliff because we're asking everybody to stay at home and closing business doors in this sense. So small business, which counts for 70% of, in many cases, of the employment of any sort of nation, of many of which have had to close doors and lay people off. And in doing so, there's a whole bunch of other industries that are more hurt than others, travel being one, where we're seeing certain airlines have to cut 95% of their staff and hoping to bring that back, assuming it can get back to some sort of normalcy. Entertainment sectors, Cirque du Soleil, didn't escape the news most recently. There's just no demand. How can they serve it right now? But it affects all. It trickles all the way down to digital. We have some advisors who are in the digital space who make content online, and they're going, hey, you should be doing very well. But he's going, well, we generate a lot through ad revenues, and those contracts are monthly plus yearly plus whatever. And that means the demand for those are way down right now. Who's going to be, selling ads for trips right now, right? So that is gone because that has disappeared. So what we're seeing is heavily influenced by the business side of things, small business. That's been an issue and how to solve for that. But it trickles all the way into the financial sector as well. So I think I'll leave that to Eric. I think he had some points that he wanted to cover there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, obviously the world of banking and fintech is not immune against COVID. As we all know, the banks, they sit at the heart of the economy and they provide funding to corporates and individuals. So their stability is very crucial. The banks in Canada went through 2008 pretty well. It was not the case in every parts of the world. So stability is crucial, and to keep the system up and running. As Jan said, there's a lot of there's tens of thousands of consumers that are on lockdown right now. So as a result, they're some of them are losing their ability to pay for credit, mortgages. So for the banks, there is a rise in payment delays due to cash flow constraints on businesses. Well, it's a rise from temporary drop in demand for services. So the hard part there is to tell the difference between a routine payment delay and a significant deterioration of in credit quality. So banks are still working to continue to provide liquidity to markets, which is getting harder given the volatility of the market. Now, banks and fintechs are trying to respond with ideas and innovations about how they can help the consumers better deal with the impact of the COVID. The last thing, and Jan, tell me if you agree, is that is a very big, it's a big concern about the rise of cyber attacks and fraud, and as consumers, businesses, and employees adapt. They adapt to this new environment because they're working from home, but that's too bad. But these types of crises, they create an opportunity for bad people also, and so COVID is not different, and hopefully we're going to be able to fight this with innovation.
Yeah, I mean, building off of your point there, for sure. I mean, we've seen massive uptick in the amount of people that are online right now, where in some cases crashing systems in network is getting cut off. So hopefully I don't get cut off before the end of this point as a case in point. Issues around Zoom is one example for which we're using, so not to badmouth, but at the same time, not as secure as others, but I think we're relatively open to who's on this call anyways. But it does cause some concerns on who's actually listening into your voice conversations right now. You have massive swaths of people going online from the workforce, many of which were not prepared. So a lot of systems were, necessarily on the cloud fully yet, and the processes and systems around that took many weeks for some. It forced the institutions to get up to speed there, which forced a lot of acceleration in the digital transformation. But there is obviously some risks and then some concerns around exposure on the cybersecurity front. Jumping on that, actually, since we're already on the subject, one of our portfolio companies has been presenting that sort of opportunity. It's called Cadence, and they have a way of tracking people, all their individual keystrokes, and understanding where they're spending time on the different servers and systems. And previously, they were getting more and more interest because cybercrime has substantially increased through time, and especially inside of fraud, because there's really not any good types of solutions here. But now with this crisis that has occurred, they're getting a lot of attention, right? Because we're not properly prepared for this much digital transformation this quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads us to next part of the conversation, and I guess we're diving into the bulk of it now, is the challenges. So I think it'd be smart to break it up in two ways, because fintech and the financial industry in general have had challenges for quite some time. In Canada, we could say how the challenge to get into open banking, for example, and now the relevance of it is even more pressing. But also the new challenges that are rising. So cybersecurity is one, but then also how the mass layoffs and people needing to figure out their budgets like never before, or SMBs needing to figure out cash flow, and cash flow has absolutely dropped. So maybe we could kick it off with the first part. And I know, Eric, you had a list of challenges that you found, but we'll just start on a high level of the main challenges that are present in the fintech space and also in the financial industry at large.
Want to start with me? Hello?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Okay, so your question, just to be sure, is about you're talking also what is the impact with some incubators, or is fintechs are still up and running? Just because I lost you for a while, for a couple of minutes, I'm sorry.
Oh, my bad. Once again, internet. Yeah, well, we could dive into how you're dealing with your startups and as the accelerator incubator aspect as well. But I thought we could just kick it off with like the general challenges that were present before and are still relevant, or maybe the challenges that are morphing because of COVID?
It's funny, but at one point, I don't feel there's a big difference. I mean, even before COVID, the fintech, they exist because they have the potential to increase economic growth in emerging as well as major economies. So they are there to increase efficiency, to give a better journey to consumers. I mean, it was the case before COVID. Now maybe things are going to go faster. Well, things are going to go faster with innovation. A few startups that we have in the program, they didn't come to me and say we're struggling. They just say, well, I mean, we need to adapt, but it gives them the idea to build optimize other solutions or to accelerate some solutions in cybersecurity or other ways to optimize the journeys of the consumer journey and banking. So obviously, for fintech, the future is contactless. So there's a lot of these fintechs that with whom we're working that are there to say, well, this situation will accelerate the switch to a cashless society. Let's stop using money. Adoption of alternative integrated payment features powered by mobile wallets and things like that. So that's what I hear. So there's a buzz. There's also a rise of intrapreneurs, from banks. So they're employees, but they see that there are some opportunities. They want to participate in the reboot of the economy or to build a better world or a better banking world. So they just like rise and work on a couple of ideas and then probably go pretty fast into the prototyping mode and then be a client of you guys and then grow to Holt. And so, I mean, we see a buzz, that's for sure. And they want help. They want to be better served. And we have, I think we have a job to do to not slow down these innovation, even though we're in a crisis right now. We need to help them to go faster. And so incubators have a role to play. You guys have a role to play, just to take care of this new future generation of entrepreneurs in financial technology, cybersecurity, and all that, to surf on that crisis that is also giving us a lot of possibilities and opportunities to make the banking world better. I don't know if it's correct what I just said, but it's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, building off that, I mean, if I go big picture or take a step back, I'd say, there's three kind of situations that we're seeing with businesses, right? So it's either battle down the hatchets and try to weather this storm right now if as best as possible. And so that you touched on the cash flow situation and cuts and question everything and making cuts around the board and build for the crash case scenario, but hope for the best, but make sure you know what's the crash case, because there is some crash case. And I can tell you, I think we've been a little optimistic in some cases. We polled all our advisors on when this will come to end. And many think that, kind of by July peak and then 6 months thereafter. So September, we kind of go back to normalcy. Well, a lot of, other school of thoughts, well, this isn't happening until a vaccine or it hits 60% of the population. Either which we're looking at a 2021 time period. Now, I'm not trying to be the bearer of the negative news but I'm trying to say we must have those considerations there when we're looking at that. That's one. The other side is it time for a hard pivot and try to refocus and take advantage of this opportunity. So keep sales up to a certain, but navigate to new waters, those blue oceans at this, because I think there is a digital transformation brewing right now. So, are you trying to weather the storm with your big ship and these waves crashing down upon you and you hopefully don't flip? Or are you sailing this to new oceans? or are you already in the blue ocean, right? So we're seeing that with other entities. I mean, Zoom's not the greatest example because they did just take a hit on the side, the security front, but hey, there are way up still nonetheless on terms of usage at the same time, right? So are you double, like digital, anything digital right now, and where you're already well positioned to take advantage of these new opportunities? But what are some of the things that we're also seeing? You know, we talked customer onboarding, digital identity right now. Only one bank, I think, really had a proper identity system established that was launched. Others in terms of a digital side of things versus like most of it has to be very much in person. We've invested in companies like that. Matt.ai focuses on the consumer wallet, so you can have a wallet of identification. That yes, you can do it for banks among others. We also have another company called Commercial Passport. That's for an institutional wallet. So same ways that consumers have a wallet, like per se, or an identity, so do businesses, knowing who they really are. And behind that as well, who are these people really? Are they good people? Are they doing AML, anti-money laundering? So we have another company called Owl, where they can get a bunch of data points on that. So these are all around the digital identity side of things and the opportunities. So yes, it's been very challenging for these institutions to go online, but there's some opportunities around that. I think some other big picture stuff, investment, right? It's just dried up. The angels, the VCs are playing a waiting game right now. We've been playing catch up on this. We've been pretty good. All things considering, this has been a very, very new sort of challenge. But what do we do first? We looked at old playbooks from 2008. We made sure that there was enough liquidity in the system. So flushing money to the banks. But we knew this from before. Banks don't necessarily distribute as fast as necessary as needed. So we knew that the job layoffs were coming from the SME side, even though it was the SME that was going to be the problem. And so that we focused quickly on trying to make sure that there was proper care, as we should, to our society to make sure everyone's taken care of, because we're telling them to stay home. But unfortunately, we've been kind of a little late on the SME side in dispersing it. Now, what could we look at? We do have solutions that are doing well right now. So we have one company is called Wealth Block, and they're about raising capital right now and a lot of these investment banking type or family offices who help raise funds are leveraging this platform because they have to do so in a digital way. So he's doing great right now, acquiring new customers. But what about disbursement? In the US, we see there's a lot of fintechs who position themselves to help facilitate the leads that are happening there, like getting all those people properly assessed, making sure these aren't fraud claims. And we have one of our portfolio companies, Ivy Lender, who's put herself in the mix to be able to, pull in those loans, filter accordingly, get you the right loan and get you the right lender, and those who are backed by from the government backed loans. I'll try and fly through. Like, other thing is, I think the partnership world, and this is very important. So because this is for me about fintech adoption right now. Sorry, I'm getting long-winded here, but if you require deep integrations right now into a bank to be a partner, I think it's going to be tough unless you are very far down the rabbit hole and you are close to the finish line. They're questioning every cost item right now because everyone's going to take a hit. No one's really escaping that side of things. So now, do you have a quick win, ease to integrate, and for them to use things that you should be already considering, like how challenging it is for you to onboard and get those customers right now? That's even ever more true, right? So if it's very hard to come in, and we've seen pivots and prioritization. Now, some of it's been good because I mentioned the identity side. Some things that were in the roadmap way further away are now at the front. But sometimes some other stuff that were much more strategic have been pushed, and they're focused very tactical. If I'm in lending, maybe I'm thinking more about, okay, well, how do I, instead of get alternative data sets to better assess clientele for new business, how do I get my money back, right? How do I make sure that, I'm processing this and focusing on repayments right now. So it's shifting the priorities, and it's very important more than ever, I would say, to truly know your customers, truly know your pain points, what exactly they need, and help them build for that right now.
No, I think you covered some really key points, and thanks for sharing the examples of your startups, because that essentially answered the question. Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I lost you again. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that there's it's pretty sad because yes, we have tragic losses during a war. But a war always drives technological advancement. So it's probably in 5 or 10 years from now, we'll look at COVID and the pandemic as a trigger that enabled us to spend our time more efficiently, to focus on other activities that matter. So that's one thing. I mean, it's not the first one. Every few years we see outbreaks. You know, we have SARS, H1N1, Ebola, Zika. The global impact of COVID could lead us to rethink how we prepare for such disasters, and probably pretty sure that digital technology and the cloud will play a vital role in that. So, I mean, bad things can bring good things. We need to focus on that. And obviously, it's a lot of the innovation is going to happen with that in fintech. So it will be it is already a little bit your central operating device, but it's going to be part of you, like your everyday banking, everything you're going to do, shop. It's going to be your money. It is already, but what I'm saying is it's going to be it. The only thing is going to be that. Well, that's my opinion. And
yeah. Another question, because yeah, so I think we answered the main question, that yes, fintech can definitely help the economy in different aspects of it, but as a bigger picture, it's triggering a digital revolution, not only in finance, but across the board in health and education and any other sector, really. I'm curious to get your opinion on how tech fins will fit into all of this. It's a great opportunity for them as well to get into the financial space more and more. And we've seen in the past with Facebook trying to get with Libra, Google Wallet. How do you see social media leverage, and social media is being leveraged more than ever at this time, into the financial space?
Yeah, so I guess I'll take a stab at it. You know, definitely what's happening, I think we do have to keep an eye on as that goes forward, because I think the giants that are here are going to get increasingly more powerful as we go through this right now. So is this in the direction that we're heading, and the world that we want to build? And so even on the macro scale, what's happening, you know, we also have a system for which whether we like it or not, the government did have to step in, and we expected it to. And so for those who don't believe in the idea of having any government intervention, what would we have done in this situation? I feel very fortunate that Canada had a very good balance sheet and is taking a lot of what I think great measures to protect our citizens and deploy cash to be able to move forward. But what does that mean? Should this just be, here I deploy cash with no questions asked, right? Just to get it back, and then, okay, now it's in your hands, now that everything's stable again, right? I'm not quite sure that is the best angle. So people are starting to ask about questions around sustainability, and do we have the best systems and setup to be able to do so? Now, previously so getting back to it, what does that mean for the tech? I think that's one component, and we all should be asking or thinking about that. But the other side is, you know, the big players are more entering out of the sense to serve their initial needs, to serve their customers. Like they don't currently really enjoy the banking side of things, the restrictions, the fighting against lobbying, the costs associated, the regulations, right? They're preferring to not be regulated. And so now that we'll see how that shifts in time. We've seen some big efforts through the Libras and whatnot, but it's definitely something that we should be looking at and understanding. At what point is this a giant monopoly and oligopoly of an entity that's being able to kind of really control and dictate where the user is going? You know, we've seen some, and it can go so scary as in some cases, just to give some examples of how far, where they could already deliver goods to your house, knowing that you will probably accept it. You may actually be like, it's too much work to just return it. It would be free to do so, And now they're almost forced consumerism right now down your throats. And they're almost dictating your tastes at this point. And they've seen examples and samples where they tested that. But there's been some pushback in some countries around doing that as such. So, you know, what does this all mean for it? It's going to take some time, but, you know, still, it's really about ultimately what the consumer wants. And what consumer is asking over anything is convenience, over trust, over where my data is going. We kind of trust for the most part. We don't care. We assume that relatively we're protected, or somehow the system will protect us. But how is that really being protected right now? It's being protected in the back end. I think as consumers, we've got to start asking those questions around data privacy, data protection, understanding where it flows, who's controlling it, how's it being used, who's monetizing, and looking for making sure more than ever we do have a competitive ecosystem to ensure our protection in the future.
Cool. I'm just looking at the time, and I see it's time for the Q&A. So we could still go. I have a couple more questions that I have in the back of my head, but I just want to see if anybody else in the audience has questions. You should have a Q&A button that you could press and type in your questions there. And if not, if you want to join in the conversation, we'd be happy to unmute you. So if that's the case, anybody want to ask a question to the panel, just type in "me" in the chat, and I could unmute you right here. So we'll just take 10 seconds. If you have any ideas or any talking points you want to share with us, we'd love to have you join the conversation. So don't be shy. Just type in "me" and I'll unmute you. I'd love to have at least 1 or 2 people join the conversation. All right, with no takers yet. Somebody just registered with WealthBlock. Very nice company. Is that a question, Louis, or it's just a statement?
I love it. Great to hear. Let me know if you need any more insights. And let me know what you think.
Okay, perfect. So, well, as we see if there's any other questions, I'm just looking at the Q&A. There's none there yet. No. Okay. We could then chat about, well, so with the perspective that this might be, you know, a more long-term situation than we originally thought. In Quebec, at least, and in Canada, there's now a lot of talks about more of local economies. But at the same time, being in the digital space, we're more interconnected than ever. So which direction, trying to frame my question properly, but well, first, how do you see it going? If we're going more local or more global? And then what role will fintech have? Will there be any new opportunities that presents itself through this if it goes in one direction or the next?
It's snowing. I'm sorry, I just saw the.
Yeah, I just saw that too. And
all right, sorry. So you're talking about local economy, all that. Basically, if it's global or local, it's a call for digital transformation for everybody, in my sense. We say that we have top 3 negative impacts and top 3 positive impacts of COVID on enterprises and on economy. The negative impacts are for enterprises, stores, the inability to visit customers or to have customers at their branches, a significant decline in sales performance, and the inability to resume production. Then on the other side, you have the positive impacts. That is, it's going to improve corporate ability to of long distance collaborative work, and then of course a wide recognition of the value of digital transformation and information technology among all employees. the gaining ability of online marketing and business development. So this is going to create a lot of opportunities locally, globally. You know what? In Italy, just found that where we had the restrictions, very strong restrictions, they had an incredible surge in e-learning and streaming and online shopping. So I don't know what was the statistics before in Italy, but it went like that. If you look at Wired magazine and all that, e-learning went up. So that's pretty cool to see. So as companies are evolving to become more digital, well, more and more interactions with customers will now occur and on the screen rather than in person. So that's not new. I mean, I'm sure you already noticed that, but I think it's not going to be something just global. It's going to be something local. Looking at the Saint Laurent Street or Charest Street in Quebec City, it's probably going to happen, just digitally. I won't cross the street to go to the store necessarily, but I will buy local though. But local startups, I mean, local companies, shops, they will need to work pretty much on their digital shift also.
Yeah, from my side, if we start with the challenges just to consider, the longer this takes, my concern is what businesses are they going to come back to, right? So some of them have kind of bunkered down the fort, hoping that this is going to pass in several months. If this continues to kick and there's no kick the can down the road for up to a year, we really got to rely on the government to fund those and maintain those jobs. That puts a lot of stress over a significant period. And if we lose those, then we lose those opportunities for jobs. So like when we go to restart the economy, what's left, a lot of innovation is happening, right? A lot of these startups and a lot of the things have been like all hands on deck to solve for COVID. And hopefully what we do, but come a year now, 2021, when there's a form of normalcy, hoping that a lot of that innovation that we've been working on can fit into the infrastructure of different areas that is being built to make this all kind of come together. Now, specific niche areas like you guys are talking about, supply chain, it's very interesting. And I think there's going to be a very, I'm always interested in overlaps between sectors. And so supply chain and fintech is definitely one area. So you're talking kind of like the micro economy, the local economy, and how it's going to sharing economy or different ways, but produced. And they're seeing that already in places like Paris, right? The local mini farms close to your house to be able to produce it and then take it into your house, right? So changing the way that we do consumption, changing and thinking about sustainability in a different way, putting more emphasis on it, reprioritizing and rethinking what's important to the consumer. So the demand has shifted, right? And previously we didn't think that was a priority, but now we're willing to pay for that. So I think we got to definitely consider things. We already mentioned cashless, contactless payments. We're seeing a push towards more real-time payments across various nations right now. So like, more and more we're realizing, wow, this is pretty important to be able to have. So we'll see how that evolves. And with that, their own national currency, digital currency, shall I say, digital backed currency, which previously, most recently, Canada had originally put on hold for reasons of saying they've been leading that sort of push on the DLT side, distributed ledger technology, through something called Project Jasper, through various initiatives, but then recently announced, hey, we've come as far as we want, we're way ahead, but we're gonna maybe see if another nation or two does it, and at that point, we'll start really kind of pushing forward. I think this conversation has shifted though. We saw things actually in the stimulus package in the US saying, they wanted to include things around a form of a digital currency. Now, I'm not going to say, like, we don't know if it's a blockchain based distributed ledger technology, but the point is it's being pushed forward more so than ever. There's lots of other areas I think we can consider that is it related to COVID? Or is it just like big areas in fintech as a whole? AI is just a general trend as a whole, more explainability around it. So explainable AI, I think, is just a big trend as a whole for the financial sector and for elsewhere. There's too many biases in the data, and that's a lot of concern. And that affects, for instance, like credit scoring. So going forward, especially, how are we deriving this? How, with the unbanked populations and increasingly more who are now affected by these issues? So, you know, accelerating things around explainable AI. So things that are not necessarily directly in the COVID path, but could be used for, need also to continue working, because it's going to feed a system where others are impacted because of it. So it's not, they're associated. We're all interconnected right now. All these technologies are very much interconnected right now.
It's going to be the collateral damage, or rather the collateral solutions that that come out of it. Eric, I saw you clicked answer live. We have a question that came up from Mohammed.
Mohammed, is
Yeah.
that a good time for big Canadian banks to go 100% digital? Hey, man, I wish, probably, I would say, you know, digital transformation has been in the bank's mind for the past 10 years, I think. I was at Desjardins first time, it's my second time at Desjardins. So first time in 2012, 2013, working on innovation, and the Desjardins was working hard like other banks on the digital transformation. And, you know, what is 100% digital? Well, it's like consumers, they should use their mobile devices to operate ATMs and terminals remotely without touching the screen. COVID will ask that. So they will need, the banks will need to work on that. They will need to focus on alternative authentication methods through biometrics. COVID will accelerate that. So I think COVID, as I said before, there's a lot of bad things, but it's going to bring an acceleration in innovation, maybe better partnerships between banks and fintechs to provide a seamless experience to the consumers. And let's hope in a couple of years we're going to say, hey, I never went to a branch. I'm doing business with my bank with video. I'm talking to my planner through video. I'm using my device to do all my operations, and without any pain points and everything. So I would say that there's going to be a big work done on KYC, digital mortgage, contactless payment. We said before. So I personally think that if it's not 100%, we would surely go at 80%. I think. Hope. Mohamed, let's talk about that in a couple of years.
We have two other questions that came in, and one is about potential innovations from Kuram. Kuram, if you don't mind, I'm going to unmute you if you feel comfortable to do so. If you don't, just go put yourself back on mute. But you're unmuted now. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hi, everybody.
How's it
How
going?
you guys doing?
Great.
Yeah, it's just more interactive if we hear you, because you had a good question. So I'll let you ask it so everybody could hear it.
Sure. So, you know, it's more of a general question for like the COVID situation, as well as, you know, regular innovation. So the first one is like more about, you know, is there room for, and potentially not just in financial services, but also in like other you know industries such as entertainment, is there room for like VR systems to like take a leap because of COVID? So like that's one, you know, in and like, you know, as an example, you could like, you know, imagine talking to your financial advisor, getting some kind of like an advice, and I have that, you know, interaction without having to leave your home. And on like the entertainment side, of course, it could be a lot much greater that you're, you know, attending like a concert or something, like you're sitting at home. So like I think VR might be something that might take a big that might actually benefit or like grow a lot from like what's happening right now, everybody at home. And the second one is more around, you know, we depend a lot on like the government to like help out all of the folks that have been impacted financially by this situation. and the most vulnerable, of course. Is there room now for, or like, is there some, innovations that can happen between the private as well as like the public sectors, that they could come together to like come up with it could be insurance, it could be food, it could be something else, that in these situations we now have like the private and like the public working jointly. Because I think one of the things that we've seen is that a lot of organizations want to like help out, but they're not all like aligned. It is hard to find the information where like most people need the help, and you're not sure what to like give people. Is it a cash fund? Is it like equipment, information? So like I think there's a lot of room for improvement in that space as well, generally. So like that's a big scope. I just wanted to put that out there and then hear some thoughts. Thank you.
Perfect. So maybe we could kick it off with the VR question. Thanks so much, Kuram, for the question. Eric or Jan, would one of you want to jump in and tackle it first?
Sure. I mean, I'm bullish on VR and or just better experiences as a whole. If we look at, let's look at it right now. Zoom is off to the races and winning. There's a bunch of other systems or event management systems that are happening, right? But what's really happening? You kind of have me on the screen right now, 3 others. I can't see who's in front of me. There's a bunch of muted microphones. There's areas to type. There's a Q&A place. Is this the best way to engage everybody, right? Like, as far as I know, well, at least everyone else other than the 3 people I see is off listening like a podcast, or not even listening, have left the room and just are staying on there. I can't track. I don't know if I'm resonating. I don't know if this makes sense. We're not engaging properly. How about the way we brainstorm, right? Like, and that's one part is digital and one part of just the way that we interact with people within our communities, right? And so, is there a way that if we had these groupings that we can get our collective thoughts together and go into breakout rooms? Now, you could do sometimes this in the physical world and whiteboard it and like leverage different tools and gamify the whole situation, but you should be able to do it even better from home with VR. And we're so far from that. I just don't think, and I'm hoping this forces us to level up. Now, part of the reason we're far from it is because in the business world, if it's almost too creative, but it doesn't really, if like time is money, then people get impatient. Or we don't have a choice now. So we're actually saying, well, we're not as efficient still. The video is important to a certain extent of getting to know people, because not everyone likes to have the video, but they're realizing, well, they have no other choice, and we actually need to read and understand the person in front of me because we got to continue the business relationships. In some places, that's super important. So I think what we're going to see is like, how are we going to be able to better communicate? And that's why, like, the idea of the brainstorming sessions or whatnot to kind of describe it. So I think we're only in the beginning there of that. Now your other point about I'm hopeful, and I don't know if we're going to go all the way down. And I'm not ripping on Fintech Cadence for choosing Zoom. These are the tools we have, right? Like, and I'm hoping that the tools get substantially better and we get better creative. And kudos for Fintech Cadence for leveraging this in different ways and using all the functionality so that we can try to be more engaged in the story. And the other side is, okay, where we're talking about what can we do? Is there lots of? There's tons. Whether maybe there'll be future health, benefit plans around protection into the future of like job loss. Like, everyone thought they had job security until I have a steady job. Well, a lot of people, it's not working out that way. We're at 40, there's been massive, I think we're 40 to 45% unemployment rate right now. Now, what about streamlining all these grants and solutions that are out there? Well, we've seen different players come together to do that. Well, what about helping them apply and go through those application processes? And again, I think we've seen that in a bit in the US, where people have done it with the grants and helping them to apply to it. But there's a whole bunch of different stuff to be done around here. So yeah, I think to bring it back, the formathon's fast approaching. It's definitely an area to explore. Keep in mind, some of this stuff is short-term and tactical, meaning like it's an opportunity now and you might make some cash, but what are you really building, right? So how can you build this into something more sustainable into the long term? I think that's more important than just trying to build something very quick, which is still good. You're giving and helping people, but I think there's an opportunity to really refocus on where the world could be and try and see if we'll end up over there in the future.
Yeah, sustainability is going to be key in all of this, because there's a lot of punctual projects that are possible, but how do you think of the long-term project that no matter how the situation evolves, it's still relevant. Eric, do you have anything else to add? I'm just looking at the time. There's one more question. Do you mind if we jump into that one? Perfect. It's from Irfan, and Irfan, we'll do the same. I'm going to unmute you if you don't mind. Irfan, you are now unmuted. You hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hear you loud and clear. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Very good. So yeah, I'll let you ask your question, please.
Okay, so actually my question is that how startup, which is actually in the pre-seed stage or in the seed stage, specifically in the wealth management, can use this situation? Because, you know, right now there's so much volatility going on in the stock market. So how they can use this situation, like they can develop their portfolio or the investment theory, basically use this opportunity so that when the users or when anyone we come out of this situation, we have a better solution of the wealth management platforms. Rather than just investing in stocks, we should have something like fractional investment of shares in a property, or combining both the stocks and the property together and mixing them to make a special portfolio for personalized to the user according to their risk analysis and the financial stability. So what you guys think about that, about mixing them, or like how can that be useful in this situation?
Let's go, John. I'm horrible in wealth management, so I don't know if you're better than me, but pretty sure you are.
I don't know if horrible is a big word, but happy to just talk about some of the things that we've seen. I'm sure you're quite strong, but nonetheless, so it depends on the innovations. You know, innovation as a whole, if we look at it from that perspective, you know, right now, not every hedge fund is performing terribly. There's actually some that are performing phenomenally right now. And I'll give you guys an example. We have a company called Fundseeder that aggregates 12,000 of the best traders, well, just traders as a whole from around the world. So if you're the best, you're going to be categorized as the best, and usually it's good for your ego, but you're also able to be seen as the best. So people actually want to mimic your strategy, which is almost even better because now they're following after you've already placed your bets and made your investments. And on the other ones who aren't performing so well, they are able to learn from those people who are and what strategies they did for their own purpose of like building their own strategies into the future. And why that's important is you start to identify of these 12,000 traders, well, what were the best strategies? What were the best performing ones? Who are the best people? So yeah, it's for a hiring and recruiting thing. And then, you know, because investing is usually, most part, is about the person and the track record. You get both on this one, right? So that is an innovative solution that's still in the pushing like late seed, depends on what your character, like Series A, depends on how you define seed Series A, depending, I think, on the nation, let's say. You know, we've seen other solutions too. Another one is another company out of UK, Markets Flow, that we invested in, who robo-advisors are under a bit of scrutiny right now because they dropped pretty like 30%. Like, did they do that much better? Did they do like 1% to 2% better than the market? Well, or, you know, like big picture, I'm way down, right? Where other managed directed funds have done better, you know, in some cases substantially better, right? Like they have in terms of the drop. So that's starting to bring to light, like, was this the best solution for me in these typical robo-advisor? Well, the one that we have, they build custom portfolios for each individual that comes in, which is substantially much more work as they do and arrange it, right? And that whole system to build it out was very challenging in the early days, but is looking more and more promising. But that's on the user as well to ask that question. Wait a minute, how are my returns doing? When everything's going up over, you know, 10 years, everyone's fine. It's not until a crisis happens that we start to consider. And the crisis has been happening every 10 years. So we really should think, okay, is this one different than the other ones? Yeah, it definitely has a lot of different stuff, but you can expect there's going to be some ups and downs along the way, and then being able to better manage it. Those are just two solutions. So the idea, sorry, and just to bring it way back, you talked about like bringing in, you know, tokenizing fractional ownerships, like maybe STOs is what you're referring to, you know, securitized token offerings, or, you know, an index of cryptos. I think, yeah, that can complement your portfolio. And I think that there could be a world in the future where we own, you know, fractional shares and everything. And I'm trading this like no payment behind the scenes. I go into the store or not even this, the stuff is just goes into my house, and it reprioritizes my portfolio. So I paid for some of my groceries with my house. Now, okay, I'm a bit being a little extreme, but to get there, like, also would take a substantial amount of infrastructure fix to be able to happen. But what I'm trying to say is there's actually an optimal portfolio that we should all have, right? And we're very far from that. We're kind of just like, I know I'm not saving enough, so I'm going to get some equities or whatnot, and then I'll figure it out. I'll just put it in. And that's, I'm not do it because you should be saving anyways, because it's better than, less than 45% or 50% of Canadians living paycheck to paycheck. That's very challenging for. So even just saving is already an issue. But I think we have a long way to go. So there's a lot still to do, I believe, in the wealth management space. We're still, a lot of this, some of the stuff, not a lot, but some of the stuff we've been building is some of the very basic stuff. Very, the tech is not crazy, but the onboarding process is hard. So it's around, understanding who this user is and going through the regulatory process and making it as fun as possible to be able that fit the customer journey. So melding those two worlds of regulation and KYC and identity and the user story into one thing. And that's what we've been focused on versus like, where do we go into the future, which is really about more personalization of products.
Perfect. Thanks, Jan. And thanks, Irfan, for your question. I'm just looking at the time, and I just want to wrap up because we're going just a bit over. But speaking about wealth management, I just want to bring to light the demo day is coming up at the end of the month. There's the Fintech Cadence demo day on the 28th, where we have all our startups graduating from the Ascension Program that you might all be interested in seeing. So the best and brightest early stage Fintech startups from across Canada. But then on the 30th, there's also National Bank's Innovation Competition demo day, where the focus was on wealth management. So Irfan, for you and others who are interested in wealth management, there's going to be 5 startups presenting what they have been working on. So that should be very cool. I'm just going to go and wrap up by sharing my screen one last time to have the final presentation. So once again, Eric and Jan, thank you so much for taking the time and being the panelists in today's discussion. I felt it was super interesting, and I hope everybody listening felt the same. So make sure you check out Holt's Accelerator, as well as Startup in Residence by Desjardins. We hope to see you back. We have the full programming here. We still have 6 more events coming up every Thursday at 4 p.m. The next one being Discover the Tech in FinTech. So it's going to be more of a tech focus. And the following week, which I think kind of follows the conversation a bit we had today, but the future of a cashless society, which I think will be a really interesting conversation as well, and diving deeper on that topic. Just as I mentioned in the beginning, make sure you check out the Formathon. If you're interested in getting engaged and actually participating and building solutions that could really help the economy, help your fellow Canadians or the economy in general, make sure you check out the Formathon. We're going to be announcing the challenges very soon, and it's going to be all online, so no worries about that. And lastly, just make sure you follow us at Fintech Cadence. And that wraps up today's presentation. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. Wishing you a happy Easter weekend, and enjoy the snowstorm. But I guess no one has to drive anywhere anyways. But that's it from us. Thank you so much for tuning in. And wishing you a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.